Okay, we're live, and tonight we are doing another installment of Heroes and Heroines. Okay, I think it's about time. I think next week we have to get a female back into this because we've been having too many males. But we'll work on that. Tonight we have another three heroes from three different periods in Jewish history. One is Shmuel Hanavi. Okay, Shmuel Hanavi is Thursday night, Yom Yerushalayim.
Wow.
Yom Yerushalayim is also the yahrzeits of Shmuel Hanavi. That's obviously in the time of Tanakh. Last time we talked about how the Meir Baal Nes's yahrzeits is actually fake. This yahrzeits is actually real, but his kever is actually fake.
What?
Yeah. So apparently,
I'm going there.
like it's not real. That like during the Crusaders mistook Ramla for Rama. It says that he was buried in Rama, in a place called Rama, and so they mistook Ramla for Rama, and they asked the Jews, like, where's Shmuel Hanavi buried, and they showed him just because they know that they would kill him, so they said it's here, and they took him from there to Nabi Samuel, and they buried him there. So sorry. So, but at least it's the real yahrzeit.
Sure.
Okay. Nobody's sure, but okay, you can still go there. It's okay. So that's Shmuel Hanavi, and then we're going to talk about the Ramchal, which is tonight. Tonight's the yahrzeits of Ramchal, are one of a Jewish hero. Like he's Mesilat Yesharim and Derech Hashem, and he has a very interesting life and very interesting legacy. And last but not least, Reb Shlomo Kozviller, who's also tonight, Shlomo Goldman. Okay, so you're invited to go to yahrzeits later, and Shoshana says it's not too busy.
Wait, isn't the Rebbe Museum buried here? Or by a different Rebbe?
That's his son, miss.
Oh, that's why it was empty. We're all saying it's the yahrzeit, and we're like, why is it so empty here? It must be this, like all the ladies are saying.
That's when I asked you if it's safe. It's because he's buried in yahrzeits. Okay, you still have time. Okay, you still have until tomorrow night. Yes, the Rebbe, this Villa Rebbe that's buried in Gan Sakar is his son Rabbi Gedaliah Moshe. We're talking about his father, Reb Shlomo. Okay, so that's what we have for tonight. Okay, so let's go back to start with Shmuel Hanavi. Okay, Shmuel Hanavi, and this is going to be like a very broad overview and summary of like what we can glean from the life of Shmuel Hanavi, because there's a heck of a lot about him, like the whole Shmuel Aleph, Shmuel Bet. Obviously, by the way, the concept of Shmuel Aleph and Shmuel Bet is a Christian concept.
Really?
Yeah, it was made up by the St. Paul edition of the Bible. They thought there was too many chapters, so they divided it into two. And it's really just Sefer Shmuel. Actually, there's an interesting thing related to that, and that is that there's an interesting thing in benching. That at the end of benching, it says Magda Yeshua's Malka, and then it says in parentheses that on Shabbos you don't say Magda Yeshua's Malka, you say Migdal Yeshua's Malka. So everybody wants to know, like, why, like, what's up with that? Why on like such a small, like, unimportant thing? Why does it make a difference? So there's an interesting, it's ingenious, if not for the fact that it's wrong, that an ingenious answer from Baruch Epstein from the Torah Tamima, that he said he had the theory that really it's a mistake. Really, there's actually two psukim that in Shmuel, Parakut Ches, I think, it's in Tehillim Mitzvah Ches, I forgot where it is in Shmuel. In Shmuel, basically, after David Malach had a certain war, so he wrote this big poem. At the end of this big poem, so he writes this pasuk, Magdi Yeshua Malka v'Yasachas Mashiach David Lazara Adonai. And so the same poem appears almost identically in two places, in Tehillim Yud Ches and in Shmuel Aleph. Okay, but there's like small differences, but basically it's the exact same thing. Okay, We write this on Pesach. On Pesach, right? In Shvish Pesach, the Haftarah is from Shmuel, where he writes this song, and the Shir Shayom of Shvish Pesach is Perek Ches and Tehillim. So anyway, so in Tehillim it says Migdal, and in Shmuel it says, sorry, the opposite. In Tehillim it says Magdal, and in Shmuel it says Migdal. Okay, so the Torah Mima had a theory that really it's supposed to say Bet Shin Bet Migdal, and really what they meant was that Bishmuel Bet it says Migdal, whereas as opposed to Tehillim where it says Magdal. And somebody in some printing press didn't know what that means. And so he says, what's Bet Shin Bet? It must mean Bishabbat. And so they said Bishabbat. And then, well, if it's Shabbat, so probably it's Shabbat and Chagim. So they added Bishabbat and Chagim, it's Migdal. And that's his theory of, but he's wrong. Why? How do we know that he's wrong? Because the first time that this custom comes up, that it says that on Shabbos it's supposed to say Migdal, it appears in the Avodram. The Avodram is a Rishon. Okay? In like the 1100s. He wrote this before the St. Paul edition of the Bible. So it was before there was such a thing as Shmuel Bet. So from the fact that this custom appears in the Avodram, it proves that it can't have come from Bishmuel Bet. Anyway, so Shmuel, he wrote Shmuel, he wrote Shoftim, he also wrote something coming up, he wrote Megillas Rus. Okay, he was connected to David HaMelech, as we'll soon see. And so Shmuel was over like this, like to learn about exactly what was his legacy. So Shmuel comes from Korach. He was a Levi. And he comes from Korach. And Rashi brings the Medrash about Korach. Korach, if you remember, so he argued with Moshe Rabbeinu. He wanted to overturn the fact that Moshe was in charge, and he called for a certain amount of democracy, a certain amount of equality, that everybody is in charge, everybody is equal, there's no kind of, hierarchy, that everybody's holy. So that was Korach. So it says, Ma ra'a l'shtutzu. Rashi brings the Ma ra'a l'shtutzu. Where did he get this shtut, this idea to try to overturn Moshe Rabbeinu? It's a shtut. I saw a very beautiful thing. Why is it called shtut? Because it says that one of the things of dat is the opposite of shtut. Right? The person who has dat, a bar dat, is a person who has understanding, as opposed to a shoteh, a insane person, a person who's irrational, psychotic, mentally ill to the point that he's considered that he doesn't have a way to, he can't make decisions properly. So a shoteh is a person who can't discern. So that is the opposite of shtut. So to discern is to have the hierarchy, to understand that some people are holier than others. That's dat. And Korach, he had shtut, to say that everybody's the same. That's okay. So Ma'ra l'shtutzu. So he was actually a very holy person. He saw Baruch HaKodesh that Shmuel is going to come from him, and he knew that Shmuel is greater than Moshe and Aaron. Okay. So this is true. That Shmuel is so great. Chazal look at Shmuel as being such a great leader that he was as great as Moshe Rabbeinu. We say in Kabbalah Shabbos, Moshe v'Aaron v'Hanav u'Shmuel v'Karesh ma'avav. That David HaMelech looks at the people that are able to be close to God are Moshe v'Aaron with their kahuna because of their birthright, because of what their DNA. B'Shmuel, he doesn't need his birthright. Shmuel b'Karei Shema, just calling out Hashem. Karim al Hashem v'hu yanem. They call out to Hashem and he answers them. So David HaMelech, he puts together Shmuel at the same level, as in the same breath, and Moshe v'Aaron. It's like Moshe v'Aaron and Shmuel. It sounds like he's like on the same level. Yeah.
I just thought of something. Maybe because Shmuel was Kana's son, and she got Shmuel by crying out to Hashem.
Yes, 100%. We're going to get to that. So it says that Shmuel was as great as Moshe and Aaron. So Korach saw Baruch HaKodesh that he had this Korach that Shmuel is coming from him. So that's why he thought that he was supposed to, that he was able to overturn Moshe and Aaron. So what exactly how is Korach actually, how is Shmuel connected to this theory of Korach? So I saw a very interesting thing, that if you look at the Jewish history before Shmuel came into the picture, so the Jewish leader before Shmuel was Eli. We actually discussed him 2 weeks ago. Like his yahrzeits was 2 weeks ago. I forgot exactly the date, but how did Eli die? Eli was a Kohen. He was the Kohen Gadol. He was the high priest. And how did he die? So at the last war before he died, so they were waging war with the Plishtim, the Palestinians, and it says that they had this idea that maybe if we bring the Aron Kodesh into the war zone, then it's going to be good for us. They thought that would be good. Yeah, it's like a good kamiyah. It's like it'll be good for good vibes. And so the truth is that it backfired. The truth is that when the Plishtim saw the Aron Kodesh, the Aron Bris, that it made them want to fight even harder. So they overcame the Jews, and they took into captivity the Aron. Okay, so we lost the war. We lost tens of thousands of people, and we lost the Aron. Okay, and then Eli himself was too old to go to war, but so he stayed home. And then this messenger came to tell Eli what had happened, and he said, His Highness Eli, his kahuna, I don't know what they would call him, that I have bad news for you, that we lost the war. And he said, okay, what else? He said, and your sons, they died. And he said, okay, what else? And he said, and the Aron was taken. Oh my gosh, the Aron! Woo! And he said, he fell back. He fell back. So what do we see from here? That he was really into. He cared more about the Aron. Than he did about the fact that we had autonomy. That we lost the war. That means that we became subjects of the Plishtim. He cared more about the Aron than he did about the fact that we had the Aron. He cared more about the Aron than he did about his own freaking kids. Okay? Like that. The fact that his kids died. Okay, we said 2 weeks ago that his kids weren't so great, but still, come on. That he cared more. That when he heard about the Aron, that's what broke him, and that's when he fell back and he died. Okay, so in the time of Eli, so there was a very big focus on religious objects, like the fact that the Kohen Gadol was the leader. Okay, it means that the focus was on the very practical religious procedures, the religious I don't know what the word is, that having these holy things and holy acts and rituals. Thank you. That was really where their eyes were. That's how they thought that life needed to be. There was a big focus on rituals, focus on holy things. And so Shmuel, so he was the next leader, and he sort of fixed that. Okay, when he got back to Aron, so he didn't even make a mishkan. He didn't even make any kind of mishkan shiloh. He put it in somebody's basement. Okay, there was no mishkan when he was shofet, when he was in charge. He didn't even have he didn't even have, he got rid of the concept of Sanhedrin. That Sanhedrin is that everyone comes to a major place. That the Sanhedrin, the Jewish leaders, the rabbis, are supposed to sit in the Beis HaMikdash, and everybody comes to them to ask them questions. And he was quite the opposite. He went around. He was the one. It says that he would go from city to city. He wanted to, like, okay, guys, like the leader of the Jewish people. He would go from city to city. Okay, guys, what can I do for you? What's up? Like, what's on your mind? Like, do you have any problems? Do you have any questions? Ask the rabbi, stump the rabbi, and like that. He was going from place to place, and it was mamish the opposite of the concept of having a greatness, and this is where very much going down to the people. Okay, that was Shmuel Hanavi's thing, and so that's really to take away this hierarchy, to take away this concept of that, like, I'm bigger than you. The Chazal say an interesting thing that, like, really says this before he makes Shaul to be king. So he has this whole speech, and he goes before the people, and he says, Lo chamor echad mechem lakachti. I never took anything from you. Chazal say that it was so important for him not to take anything from people that he didn't even take from public things. He didn't even, like, if there was a public well, he wouldn't drink from that public well. He would only take from water that he bought, because he didn't want that anybody should think that I think I'm better than you, and that's why I'm a parrot. Like, he wanted it to be very clear that like I am a servant of the public, not that you're my servants. Okay, and so he was like the complete opposite of this, like, monarchy, so to speak, that this leadership, that you're down to me, that this hierarchy, and but rather that everything is like we're all equals. So that's the philosophy that really the Korach was preempting, and that the Shmuel was actually bringing in. Why? Because at the time that Shmuel came, so it was actually a messed up philosophy of the Jewish people. So really that was really what needed. He needed like a educational break before we go back to Beis HaMikdash. He needed to let's focus on just being a people. Let's focus on like that you it's up to you. You know, like, as much as that we're looking at holy things, as much as that, like, you know, what's the problem with k'niyas? What's the problem with the babas? What's the problem with skulas? That, like, it makes people forget that, you know, like, bottom line, you have to be a good Jew. Bottom line, you have to take responsibility for your life. Like, it's not about there's no magical formula that, like, if you just, like, give 101 shekel to the kever the Shmuel Rebbe, then that's it. Then you're going to have kids. You have to. There's no magic. There's no magic. You want if you want to have a better relationship with Hashem, so invest in your relationship with Hashem. You know, and that's coming from the bottom. Okay, and that's why Shmuel's thing was really tefillah. Shmuel's thing was really tefillah. That if we recall from 2 weeks ago, that Shmuel was born miraculously from tefillah. That his mother Hannah, so she was crying so much that Eli thought that she was drunk. Eli thought that she had lost it. Okay, she was just completely, like, taken away by her tefillah, that he thought that she had lost it, and it says that Shmuel really had the same power. It says about Shmuel that the pasuk says in Sefer Yoel that he's called Pituel Shepita et Hakel b'tfilato. Okay, so he would do things. He would go from place to place. He would have big sudas. He would have big meals, and he was going down to the people, and this is really Shmuel's legacy. He had a messianic side to him, that he really wanted to bring Mashiach. The Rambam says that there's three mitzvahs. There's three mitzvahs that the Mashiach needs to do. One is to become king. One is, to make a king, to make the Klal Yisrael house a king. One is to destroy Amalek, and the third is to build the Beis HaMikdash. And Shmuel Hanavi, we see that he did all three things. That he was the one that made Shaul and eventually David king. He was the first one since Moshe Rabbeinu to wage war with Amalek. He was on the personally, he personally cut off the king of Amalek, Agag. He cut off his head because Shaul didn't want to, and he was the one. It says that he was sitting with David HaMelech to plan the building of the Beis Mikdash. So he had this messianic side to him. One Chazal, the Rambam says that he had. If you want to know what his issue, like what his struggle was, he had struggle with fear. The Rambam said that he had struggle with fear because when Hashem told Shmuel to tell Shaul that that's it, you're through, after the story of Amalek, after he messed up with Amalek and he didn't completely kill Amalek, so Shmuel tells Shaul that that's it, you lost your merit to be king. And so it says that Shmuel says to Hashem, "V'yam Shmuel eich elech v'shama Shaul v'harageni." How can I go? Shaul is going to kill me. So the Rambam says that was a problem. That Hashem tells you this is what you need to do, so you can't be afraid of anybody. Okay? So this that his problem was that he had to have no fear at all, and that was his one soft side. Another thing is that we mentioned this 2 weeks ago also, that he was the one that when he was a kid that told Eli that you can actually shecht without a Kohen. So he was trying to make little of the fact that kahuna, of this hierarchy, and that was basically his contribution. That was his contribution to the Jewish people. Okay, interesting idea. Interesting. FYI, is that the Zohar says that it says by Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. We said this in the Seder night. That Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Harei ani keben 70 shana. It's as if I'm 70 years. That they never accepted my opinion that we should talk about Yetzias Mitzrayim at night. So the Zohar has an interesting comment on this. What's it mean? It's as if I'm 70 years. The Zohar says that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was actually the reincarnation of Shmuel Hanavi. Shmuel Hanavi died when he was 52 years old. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah at the time was 18 years old. So because he had previously existed in the world for 52 years, and now he's 18, so it's as if he's 70, and that's what he meant. Harei ani keven 70 shana. Now, how is this relevant? Because the Gemara says about Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, when Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah became in charge of the Jewish people, so he was taking the place of Rabban Gamliel. Okay, and Rabban Gamliel, he had a educational philosophy that yeshiva should only be for the elite. Okay, that if you're not holy enough and if you're not intelligent enough, then take a hike. My yeshiva is I want it to be a good yeshiva. I don't want it to have a bad name. So if you're not up to par, so we don't want you. Yeah, I said it. We don't want you. Go away. You stink. And that was his. It says that the way the Gemara says is he only accepted people which are tocho kivaro, that were completely genuine, that their insides were like their outsides. And if he saw anybody, if it was even a tiny bit fake, he would say, get out of here. It says that when Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah became in charge, so the first thing he did was he opened up the gates, and he added 40 rows of benches in the Beis Mikdash, that he had anybody wants to learn can come and learn. Okay, that was the first thing. That was the first thing that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah did when he became Nasi, and so this is really the same idea as Shmuel Hanavi. This is like to take away this hierarchy, to make it that Torah is for the masses, that everything that this is that's also why his thing was tefillah, the Korei Shema, that calling out to Hashem's name, that Torah is something that only the elite can do. And not everybody is meant to be the the expert in halacha, right? Right. So like you have to ask the rabbi when you have a question, because like what if you don't know enough, if you haven't refined your brain enough, then your opinion doesn't really matter. But tefillah is not like that. Tefillah is really not like that. Tefillah, everybody can daven. You don't have to have any intellectual capacity. You don't have to have any going to school for 5 years to learn how to daven rapidly. Everybody can daven. Everybody has their personal place that they can be the king or queen of davening. That they can be they can rock davening, and that's why that was his thing. It was really that, to find this connection that doesn't require yichus. What's amazing is that he was miyuchas, and he made nothing of his yichus to say that Torah is really, everyone's really the same, and everybody on their level can have their personal relationship with Hashem. Okay, so that's Shmuel Hanavi, and that is what we have Thursday night, Yom Yerushalayim. Okay.